Hi everybody, welcome back. I'm Jamie Miller, PGA Teaching Professional, and today we're going to talk about pitching, and in particular we're going to focus on 3 shots you need to master to try and take your pitching to the next level. Let's get into it. The 3 shots we're going to be focusing on today are going to be the high shot, the low shot, and then also the spinner. Now these 3 shots are a bit more advanced, so if you're looking for some more basic pitching ideas, I've linked another video that I've done on basic pitching in the description below. Check that one out. So today we're going to talk about how I like people to play these shots, the technique required to play them, and then we're going to take them out onto the golf course and show you the situations you might want to put them to play. To play these shots today, I'm going to use the same club for each one. I've got my 58-degree lob wedge here. I like to use the same club for all 3 of these shots because it makes it easier for me to judge distance, so I've practiced quite a bit with my 58 in terms of judging the distance. I know that it is easier for me to judge the distance with this particular club, trying to play these different variety of shots, than it is to try and change the club to get a different ball flight. I think it's a good idea for you too, to try and get good with one club, and then try and add a variety of shots to that club. For me, that makes it much simpler in terms of decision making. I've got the club, I just need to decide on how I want to play the shot. And so the first shot we're going to focus on today is the lower one. So for each of these shots, I'm going to play them about 50 yards. In this particular case, I'm going to try and land this one about 40 yards and get to run up towards the hole. In terms of the overall technique of this shot, not much is going to change, particularly its setup compared to how I normally hit it. There are 2 things I would focus on when it comes to this shot at setup. The first one is to put the ball slightly further back in my stance, more towards my right foot, my back foot. This is just going to mean that at impact I should deliver slightly less loft to get that ball coming out a bit lower. The other thing is I'm going to aim a little bit further to the right of my target. Now, I'll explain why in a second, but just at setup, that's what I'm going to focus on. So ball slightly further back, and I'm going to aim my whole body slightly further to the right of target. In terms of swing technique, I'm not going to change a whole lot. There's one thing I'm going to focus on, and it's only going to be a backswing thought. For most people, when they hit a pitch shot, for myself as well, as I swing the club back, I get this slight twist in the club where the toe of the club points up towards the sky. What I'm going to focus on in the backswing of this particular pitch shot is I'm going to feel like I take that twist out and in fact twist it the other way so the toe of the club is now pointing more towards the ground. This is in theory taking loft off the golf club, but it's also pointing the club face slightly further left, hence the reason I'm now aiming a bit further right at setup. With those adjustments in mind, let's hit the shot and see how it performs. So ball slightly further back in my stance, feel like I'm twisting that club, aim a bit further right, I'm twisting that club down 40 yards. Not bad. I'll take that. One of the things we're going to take note of here is how the spin rate drops. Now that spin rate when we're pitching is really crucial because it allows us to sort of control what happens to the ball once it lands. In this case, the ball spun at around about 5,700 RPM, not super high, and we'll see that as we go on through the pitching. Peak height quite low at 16.7 feet there, just meaning the ball's coming in quite nice and low. It landed 43 yards, so not far away from my 40-yard target, and it ran up to a total of 49. So it got close to the total yardage I was looking for. Let's move on to the high shot and how it differs and where we might use it. To me, this is actually the hardest shot to hit, the higher one, or the really high one if you want to do a really high one. The technique is the same for a high one and a higher one, it's just how much loft you present. The reason I find this the hardest is because it takes a lot of courage to hit the ball as hard as you need to get it go the distance. So for this higher shot, in terms of setup, once again I'm changing 2 things. First thing is going to be that club face, so I'm going to twist the club face and add quite a bit of loft. The next thing is I'm going to aim very slightly further to the left for this shot. The reason being, as we add that twist into the club face to add loft, we're actually then pointing the club face to the right of target. So I'm going to try and aim a bit further left just to get that ball to start a bit more on line. The ball position itself is not changing from where I would use it as a normal pitch shot. The reason being, I want to make sure my ground contact remains solid. That's going to help me judge the distance better. From there, in terms of overall backswing technique, unlike the low shot where I'm trying to twist the club down towards the ground, I'm actually not going to feel any twists in the backswing here. The only time I might do that is if I have to go over a tree or there's an obstacle in my way where I need to go extra high. I've added enough loft here at setup that I don't need to worry about that too much for this particular shot. Where the change comes in terms of technique for this one is at impact. I'm going to try and feel like the club head is getting ahead of my hands. This is just adding a bit of extra loft, getting the ball to pop up nice and high and land very softly. Let's do this. I do find this one harder. So club face, set up, 50. It's 50 yards, but I'm going to try and feel like I'm hitting it about 60. just because of that extra loft. Oh, needed it a lot harder. Peak height on that one was twice as high as it was on the lower shot. Backspin almost twice as much, 9,000. So carry only went 43 yards. So you can see I didn't hit it hard enough. I'm going to try that one more time, see if I can get that to go the extra 7 yards in the air. So if that was my 60-yard swing and it only went 43, I'm probably going to have to hit this my 70-yard swing to try and get it to go the distance. Let's see how we get on. Nothing will change now except for the length of swing I'm hitting this one. So twist, set up. There we go. It's gone much more the distance I was looking for. So carry 53 yards. Backspin went up again. Peak height was again 37 feet. So it's a lot higher, landing a lot softer. Definitely a shot you should add to the repertoire. Try and get yourself improving these pitch shots. Let's move on to the last one, and probably the most exciting one. Before we talk about how to play this shot, what I want to talk about is going to be slightly technical. We're going to try and increase our spin loft here. That's going to allow us to create a bit more backspin with this shot. Spin loft is the difference between angle of attack and dynamic loft at impact. So if my angle of attack is level and my club face is pointing along the ground there, that's a spin loft of 0. The difference between them, that angle you can see between the blue stick and the arrow on my club face, that is the spin loft. The higher the spin loft, the more spin we get to a certain point. There becomes a point where we start getting too much spin loft and the ball just slips off the club face. But for this shot, we're not going to have to worry about that too much. We're not going to get too crazy with how far downwards our club is going and how much loft we're adding to the club face. We're really going to focus here on trying to get our angle of attack going downwards quite a lot. For me, I'm going to be looking to try and get it around about 10 degrees down. Most people I coach, when they come and get lessons from me, at most they tend to be 3 or 4 degrees, and that's just not enough for the shot we're going to try and play here. The way we're also going to increase loft is going to be at setup. We're not going to try and change that in our golf swing. Reason being because I want to try and put our focus on getting the angle attack going down in the golf swing, which we'll talk about. When it comes to setup for this shot, I don't try and vary too much from how I play my normal pitch shot. So I would still set up with the ball somewhere near the middle of my stance. I'd aim my feet kind of parallel left to my target line. What I would change very slightly is I'm going to twist that club face once again so that it's pointing a bit higher to the right. Not like I would for the high shot, but just a bit more twist. This is going to increase the loft on the club face, trying to create that extra separation between angle of attack and dynamic loft, giving me a bit more spin loft. What we should find with this shot, unlike the higher shot, is that when we increase the loft, the ball should still come out fairly low. So it'll probably peak height very similar to what it did with our low running shot, but it'll have extra backspin on it, meaning it's going to bounce, and stop. That's the theory anyway. Whether we can execute it, well, that's up to us, and it does take some practice. This is quite a hard shot to execute. Once we've got that set up right, in terms of overall technique, I'm not looking to change a whole lot. I'm going to keep it the same as my basic pitching shot. I will just make sure, and this is something that a lot of people actually have issues with anyway, I will just make sure that as I swing the club back, I'm putting the pressure into my lead foot. This is just going to encourage the club to be going slightly more downwards, as well as get my low point ahead of the golf ball. Both things we need to make sure we get the crispest strike, to get the most amount of backspin, get that ball bouncing and skipping and stopping. Let's do this. So 50 yards, I'm going to point myself target, give that club face a little bit of twist. 50 yards. So this should land hopefully around about 45. Couple of bounces and stop. If I get it really good, it'll probably stop after 46. See how we get on. There we go. One bounce, stop. So angle attack was 8 degrees down, not quite as much as I would have liked. Spin rate went quite high, and peak height sort of stayed at 20. It was 23.5 feet. I think the low one was around about 16. So it's not much higher than the low one. It's got a lot more spin, so it's going to stop a lot quicker. Just meaning we can have a bit more control over that end result. We're not relying on bounce and runners as much. However, it is a much harder shot to get right. So that's how we play each of these shots. Let's get out on the golf course now and find out what situation to use them in and see how they perform when we're out on the golf course. Okay, so we've come out to the 10th hole here at Knot End. Perfect example for the low shot. I've got the flag towards the back of the green. Over the green is a runoff and a bit of a hard up and down. The grass over there is a bit thicker, so I want to try and avoid that. What I'm going to try and do is I'm going to play it lower, around about 40 yards, just like we played it inside. It's going to bounce and run up towards the hole. I'm also going to play it lower because, as you can probably see, the flag is whipping around a bit. I just want to make sure that the wind's not going to have a chance to affect it as well. Let's play it. So let's see how this one reacts. Got a camera up there by the hole. Should hopefully show you how this one comes in and reacts when it lands. So 40 yards, nice and low. Nice and low. Oh, it's had a funny bounce. It's taken a very funny bounce, unfortunately. Greens have just been cored, so there's a bit of sand on the green. Didn't bounce the way I expected to. Might play that one more time, see if we can get a better bounce. But that came out exactly as I'd hoped it would, nice and low. Just stopped a lot quicker. Second attempt, I'm going to try and play this exactly the same and just hope I get a slightly better bounce. Yeah, that's pretty much the same. And there's the bounce and run out that I was kind of expecting. Finish what looks like about pin high from here. Hopefully the camera up there is picking it up so you can see how it's finished. But that's how the kind of situation where we want to use that lower one. Bit of room between us and the flag. We can use the contours of the green to try and help ourselves get it close. It also takes the wind effect out of play, or at least minimizes it. Let's move on to the next one. Perfect situation there for the spinner. I've got a flag that's kind of nowhere near any danger. Quite a bit of room to work with either side. The flag is just behind a slight upslope, so I can land my ball on the upslope, have it take one bounce and stop quite quickly. It's a situation where I'm in a perfect lie in the fairway and I'm looking to make a good score here. So I can get quite aggressive, and this is the perfect time to try and play that spinning pitch. The hardest thing here is going to be judging the distance, once again 50 yards away, so I'm going to try and land this around about sort of 45, 46 yards and see how we get on. Cool. Came out a little higher than I was hoping it would. I'm going to try it one more time once again, see if I can get that lower one just with a bit more spin. I mean, it stopped pretty close by the looks of it, so I'm pretty happy with the result, but I want to see if I can get that real spinning one. Secret to this one is almost catching it slightly thin. So that's what I'm going to aim for. Just a very, very slight thin. Nope. Last go at it, I promise. Really just want it to spin. Not quite executing it the way I want to. I mean, the results are fine, but just like to execute the shot for the camera. It's very Hollywood. It's a bit of strike, but it's way higher than I want it to be. Landing the stop really quick. Couldn't quite execute it the way I wanted to, unfortunately. Results are fantastic, so can't complain about that. But you definitely need to have a nice tight lie, clean club face, and a situation like this where you can be quite aggressive so you can get that ball to land and stop quite quickly without any worries about any danger to the left, the right, or short, long of the pin. Let's move on to the last one. Okay, last situation where short-sided, flag tucked behind the bunker. Luckily I am into the wind and into the rain, that's going to help. Coming out of the rough, I'm not going to get a lot of stop out of this, so I'm going to try and use height, get the ball land softly and stop quickly. So this is a perfect example of the high shot, where we want to come up and land very softly. Not going to get much run out of it. That into the wind is definitely helping. In this situation, my main aim is just to get the ball on the green and take whatever comes from there. But obviously if I want to get it to land close, I'm going to try and hit it higher, land it softer. It's definitely high, it's not hard enough. Oh, that's embarrassing. One more go. Prime example of why I find that one the hardest to do. Hitting it that high and that far is very difficult. Let's wait for the greenkeeper to go in case I thin this one. Well, I'm going to have to be really aggressive with this. Really feel like I'm going to hit it way, way too far. There we go, that's nice and high. It's not on target. Back inside to finish off. Unfortunately, my microphone did not like the wind and rain. Now that you've learned how to play the shots, it's time for you to go out and practice them so that you can find out when to use them, where to use them, and how best to play them for you. Be patient with these shots. It does take some time to learn them. They are a bit harder than your standard pitch shot. But the benefit of practicing them means that you've got more shots in the repertoire for more situations on the golf course. It means that you're going to improve your pitching, take it to the next level, and lower your scores. Thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions about anything that we talked about today, please post in the comments below. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. Otherwise, I'll see you all again soon.